Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from Martinian TV. Another game of Interplanetary I Spy going on here, back on Mars, back in Gale Crater. But we're going back 3 years to 2013 to a find that I originally published in June of that year. Okay, here is that publication. Giant bird skull, giant alien bird skull on Mars, NASA Curiosity rover Anomaly, okay? Not had a great deal of views, but I didn't have that many subscribers then. This is why I'm redoing some of these videos, because many people have joined my site or my YouTube site in recent months and recent years. So many of you may not have seen this stuff from 2013, and there are some good finds that I found back then. Some of them are quite crazy, in fact. And there's the original video. Yeah, June 11th, 2013. I did a remake of it later that year, which is this one, which I published later on in the year. Which is slightly better, but it's still not brilliant because I don't think my imaging skills were quite so good then. But it does have some nice comparisons in here. I'm first going to show you the raw image, which is here. Now, this is Sol 110, okay? So we're going right back to near the beginning of the Mars Science Laboratory mission here. And you've got this image here with some fairly average looking rocks in the middle ground. And then on this ridge line here, you have a bunch of rocks here. And then right here in the middle, above this rock, large rock here, you have a giant bird skull, okay? Now, I'm going to show it to you on the Gigapan here because it's actually easier to get a sense of scale. Now, I estimated this, back then, I estimated this skull to be around 6 foot long. Now, that is absolutely enormous for a bird. In fact, it's bigger than most birds overall in size. It may be bigger, it may be a bit smaller, but it is very, very large. Because when you see this Gigapan, which I'm going to show you now, and there's also, if you want to have a look at this Gigapan, it's an interesting one anyway. Sol 110 is pretty cool. If you go to the right bottom corner, left bottom corner here, there's this thing, which I also published in 2013, which looks to me like a crab shell or something. It almost looks like a mask. But it's some kind of shell of an animal that's had bits of it poked through and broken, okay? And a possible bird skull here or lizard skull or something with teeth here, see? Now, I can't zoom in any further, but you can go back and check my videos from that year and you will find that. So I did a couple of versions of that as well, I think. So you can have a look at that as well. But it's worth looking at this one because there's some interesting stuff in here. And the area we're looking at is kind of right smack in the middle here, near the top. So you go straight to that large rock that I showed you, which is here. Not the darkest one, that's the darker one. It's this large rock, and then just above you've got the giant bird skull. And the funny thing is about this possible, well, I don't just think it's a possible bird skull, I think it is, because other people have found bird skulls, and I've found many other types of skulls, including types of antelope and other creatures like mainly lizards and things like even humanoids on the surface of Mars. So don't tell me there aren't any skulls on the surface, because there are. I've personally found around about 100 so far, and if you add on the ones that other people have found as well, you could probably double that. So there was life on Mars, there were animals on Mars, there may even be some left now, although I doubt it. If there are, I would imagine they'd be very small, and things like rodents and perhaps small snakes and lizards. Okay, so here it is. Now I can't zoom in any further, but you can see a beak here. You can even see an eye and a head that looks like it's been ripped off here and eaten or torn away. And there's some rather odd, fleshy looking rocks here that look like they may be something to do with it as well, like this here and this here. Okay, so I'm not going to dwell on that too long because I can't zoom in any further. So I'll show you the new enhancements I've done in a second. I'm just going to show you the comparisons in this video. Now, you can see here that the image is very blocky, and even though I've enhanced it here, there's lots of distortion in the image, okay? You can see these lines going up and down and left to right, and they've kind of distorted the image, but you can get an idea of what we're looking at, okay? Let's let that play through a little bit. There are some cool comparisons here coming up. Now take particular notice of the shape of the beak here, okay? It's very similar. In fact, I did show this to my mother, who is an expert on birds and has written many articles about birds of all types, especially parrots. And she is one of the world's leading experts on such creatures. And my brother's also a bit of a bird, used to be a bird watcher. I showed it to him, he recognised it as a bird skull straight away. But the unusual thing about this is that it still has fleshy material here and an eye. So this may well be quite recent, or it may have been preserved in a very specific way, which we wouldn't have on Earth because of the conditions on Mars, lacking in oxygen and moisture, freeze drying the specimen, much like we see in Antarctica, where some of the seals have been found to be well over 6,000 years old and still have eyes and still have flesh and still have lots of detail on the body. So it may well be a similar situation here. This could be freeze dried. I'm just going to let that play through a little bit, then I'll show you the close-ups, because I've done some newer, clearer enhancements of this now, and I haven't, unlike some of the older videos I made, I haven't over-zoomed and gone in too close, which is a big mistake. If you do that, you just don't see any detail. Now, this is my estimated size for the bird. This will be the head, obviously, with the beak. I've actually given it a name, Ares Maximus, because of its size. It's absolutely huge. Now, if it is a flying bird and not a flightless bird, I was going to say legless then. If it's not a flightless bird and one with wings that flew, its body would have been absolutely huge. If it's got a 6 foot long head and beak, that's very, very large indeed. Okay, so you can sort of like times that by about 4 or 5 to get the general length of the bird, and then you can work out the wingspan from that. And it would have had a wingspan of approximately 50 feet, possibly more, possibly less. But of course, it may not have been a flying bird. It could have been more like a dinosaur type bird, like a dodo, or sort of an older flightless bird, like we have ostriches and emus, that kind of thing. It could have just run around on the surface. But bear in mind that Mars does have much less gravity than Earth. In fact, less than half of what we have. I think is around 38% of Earth's gravity. So if there were birds on Mars, which there were, and it had less gravity, which it does, and it also used to have a thick, oxygen-rich atmosphere, which it did, then birds and flying animals may have got much, much bigger than they are down here because of the less gravity and other conditions on Mars, making it possible for these creatures to get very large indeed. Okay, so bear that in mind. That is a very important factor, and this just gives you an idea of. I mean, this was apparently the largest bird on Earth, a 7-meter wingspan, Argentavis magnificens, obviously from Argentina, which is a type of eagle, or I think condor. Actually, I think it's a type of condor, and the size difference is unbelievable. I mean, it's double the size, effectively, more than double the size of that. Okay, because that's got a 7-meter wingspan, and this would have around a 15-meter or more wingspan. Okay, so there we go, and there are some more comparisons here. I'll let them play through because these are quite good, and I just spent a bit of time on this video and matching all this stuff up and trying to get it to make sense. Come on, is it playing? There we go. Now, could it be that some of our ancient legends of giant creatures on Earth are in fact Martian legends and not Earth legends at all? Like the Rock. The Rock was supposed to be a giant bird of mythical times and legend from the distant past that used to attack people and eat them thousands and thousands of years ago. And there are many mythical creatures that we have on Earth, sphinxes and other interesting hybrid-looking creatures that we've never actually found any of. Could it be that these actual legends come from Mars? Did some Martians come here and bring these legends of giant birds and animals and creatures and strange hybrid animals like sphinxes? Did they actually have them on Mars? Were the Martians doing genetic experiments way, way, way before we're doing them now? Is that possible? That's something to bear in mind. If there was life on Mars, it is quite possible that some of the creatures there could have been way, way bigger than ours because of the lower gravity and the different conditions. So that is something worth thinking about. I can't prove this, of course, but it would have been the wingspan of this bird, if it was a flying bird, would have had a wingspan greater than this aircraft. This is a Ju-87 World War II dive bomber, and it would have been approximately the size of this P-38 Lightning, which is also a World War II aircraft. This has a wingspan of 16 meters, so it would have been approximately the same as that, which is pretty big. Okay, that's over 50 feet, and if you were to see one, it would compare in size to a light aircraft, much like this photo does here. This is a giant condor photograph taken in South America. Possible Thunderbird sighting. I doubt it. I think it's just closer and the aircraft is further away. So it's a bit of an optical illusion here. But I thought I'd put that in anyway, just to give you an idea of the size of this bird. Okay? Okay, right. That's enough of that. We've had all the comparisons. I've shown you on the Gigapan. So all I'm going to do now is show you the recent images I've got of it, and I've done some enhancements. Here's a raw clip. Now all I've done to this so far with this is rotate it to the right to level it off. Okay, and before you do anything to this image, you can see an eye here, a beak here obviously with quite a deep shadow underneath it, and some torn flesh on the back of the head, and the sort of forehead coming up here. Okay, and a possible nasal cavity here. Okay, that's raw, so I appreciate it looks fuzzy because it's quite a long way off from the camera. We'll have a look at the Gigapan in a sec just to kind of reiterate the distance of this thing, because it's quite a long way off. It's about 100 feet away from the rover, possibly a bit more. It could be 200 feet. Okay, so I've done an enhancement here. I've given it some Gaussian blur to get rid of the pixelation and compression lines, and I've done my usual thing. I've color corrected it and added a bunch of contrast. Okay, and you can really see now that eye detail is coming out. Now of course this is still distorted because there was compression lines running right up through this eye here, so you're getting some distortion here. Okay, but you can see some detail on the back of the head here where it looks like it's been torn off. That does not look like a rot to me. This is detail, and there even seems to be here, when you see my next enhancement, some feathers or something, some kind of soft material here. Okay, so let's look at the last one here, and what I've done here is I've actually drawn round it, selected round it, and changed the color temperature to make it stand out so that you guys on your rather small mobile devices can see it. It was pretty obvious to me when I first saw this, even in the raw image, that it was a bird skull, and I'm still convinced it is, and I don't care what people say. People are attacking me all the time and calling me names and trolling my site and saying horrible things. Okay, yeah, do that as much as you like. You're not going to stop me saying this, because I have enough evidence for like past life on Mars to prove my point here. And what is proof? Proof is lots of evidence all leaning in one direction. I have hundreds of skull specimens and bone specimens and multiple buildings, shipwrecks, aeroplane wrecks, multiple anomalies that I've uncovered on Mars in the last 3.5 years. Okay, so don't tell me that these are not there, because they are. I have the evidence, and many of us from the United Family of Anomaly Hunters, between us, have enough damning evidence to take NASA to court and prove them wrong, and prove that they've been lying to the public now for decades. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll put more clips of these in at the end. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again.